In the Bible, sea creatures are seen as part of God's creation and a manifestation of His power and wisdom. In Psalm 104, it is mentioned how God created the great and spacious sea in which are countless living things. These verses reflect the astonishing power of God over the sea and all the creatures that inhabit it. Although the Bible does not mention mermaids, it emphasizes that everything God has created, including the ocean, has a purpose and should be recognized as part of His work. Each detail of the sea, from the smallest fish to the largest whale, serves as a reminder of God's intricate design and power. Through the wonders of the ocean, believers find inspiration and appreciation for the creativity and authority of God in all things. The relationship between sea creatures and God's power invites contemplation on the depth of His creation and our connection to it. In acknowledging the sea and its inhabitants, we celebrate the diversity and purpose embedded within God's magnificent work. The Bible invites us to marvel at God's craftsmanship, reminding us that every creature serves a role in the grand design of creation. Although sirens are not directly mentioned in the Bible, it can be argued that the symbolism related to the sea and marine creatures has an impact on how certain spiritual dangers are perceived. In the book of Revelation, the fall of Babylon is described as a symbol of corruption and sin, and it is mentioned that worldly riches and pleasures will be swallowed as if by a great storm at sea. This kind of symbolism of the unpredictable and destructive nature of the sea may relate to the mythical vision of sirens as beings that lead to perdition. The deep connections between the sea and temptation are reflected in many biblical narratives, where waters often symbolize chaos and moral challenges. This can be seen in the story of Jonah, where the sea represents both a place of refuge and peril, hinting at the dual nature of allure, much like the enchanting songs of a siren. The haunting melodies that draw sailors to their doom mirror the seductive pull of sin, showcasing the fine line between curiosity and destruction. In many legends, mermaids are described as beings that entice sailors with their song, leading them to ruin or shipwreck. This concept can be seen as a symbolic parallel to biblical warnings about temptations that draw us away from God. In Proverbs, for example, the strange woman is depicted as someone who can lead a man toward destruction, echoing how mermaids in mythology are viewed as hidden dangers. Temptations may appear attractive, but ultimately lead to ruin, which serves as a similar warning in both traditions. As sailors venture deeper into the ocean, they are often drawn in by the enchanting melodies that resonate from the depths. This allure mirrors the seductive nature of temptation, as described in various texts, where the promise of pleasure can blind one to the lurking dangers. The chaotic struggle of sailors represents the internal battle individuals face when confronted with enticing yet perilous choices. Ultimately, these narratives serve as cautionary tales about the consequences of succumbing to temptation. While the Bible does not mention sirens specifically, there are references to mysterious and fantastic creatures in the sea, such as Leviathan. In the book of Job, Leviathan is described as a powerful sea monster that only God can control. Some scholars suggest that such descriptions could be poetic or symbolic interpretations of mythical creatures, though not necessarily sirens. However, there is no direct biblical evidence that these beings are sirens in the mythological sense found in other cultures. As the story unfolds, the fearsome Leviathan emerges from the depths, evoking both awe and terror among those who hear its name. The ancient scholars captivated by tales of the sea theorize about the nature of these mystical beings, pondering their significance in human history and belief. Within this oceanic realm, whispers of enchanting beings linger, as some interpretations suggest that these mysterious figures may have inspired the mermaid legends we know today. The vivid imagery in stained glass captures both the beauty and allure of these mythical entities, blending the sacred and the surreal. The Bible does not directly mention sirens or their influence on ancient cultures, but it describes how the cultures of the time worshipped false gods and created mythologies around creatures and symbols that were not of God. For instance, in Deuteronomy, God warns the Israelites about not worshipping the sun, the moon, and the stars, or the creatures related to them. In the ancient world, sirens might have been seen as a form of pagan mythology that posed a spiritual threat through idolatry or deception. Yet the Bible does not delve into specifics about sirens, leaving their influence enveloped in the broader context of false worship and spiritual peril. The absence of detailed references to sirens in Scripture reflects a focus on guiding believers away from false idols and towards true worship. This narrative emphasizes the significance of maintaining true faith in God and resisting the allure of enticing but deceptive legends that can lead one astray. Through teachings and cautionary tales, ancient communities would reinforce the need for discernment against the alluring distractions of myth and legend. The Bible explicitly forbids the worship of creatures or beings other than God. In Exodus, God establishes in the Ten Commandments that no images should be made or worshipped of anything in the heavens, on the earth, or in the sea. The worship of mythical creatures like mermaids falls under this prohibition, as they represent a form of idolatry. According to biblical teaching, all forms of worship must be directed solely towards God, and not to creatures whether real or mythical. Throughout the ages, many cultures have created images and idols representing their beliefs, often leading to practices that contradict biblical teachings. The existence of temples dedicated to various deities speaks to humanity's inclination toward veneration of anything other than the one true God. This persistence of idol worship serves as a reminder of the call to focus our devotion solely on God, resisting the allure of representations that can lead us astray. The Bible does not specifically mention sirens as we know them from popular legends or modern culture, but it does talk about sea creatures in various passages, generally in the context of beings created by God in the sea, such as in the creation story in Genesis. The sirens as a mythological figure combining human and fish traits are not mentioned in the Bible. Rather, the marine beings described are creations of God and do not possess the supernatural traits often attributed to sirens in legends. The creatures of the sea that the Bible refers to are typically those created by God, without the enchanting and often perilous characteristics associated with mythical sirens. Throughout history, interpretations of the ocean and its beings have varied greatly, with many cultures envisioning mermaids and similar creatures. Yet the biblical texts focus on the divine origin of all marine life. Biblical accounts often highlight humanity's relationship with the sea, emphasizing stewardship and reverence for God's creations, while mythical representations like sirens remain outside these scriptural narratives.